this video is for you, if you want. I'm an NB, I'm non-binary, I experience gender outside of the male-female binary that most of society is organized around. Or if we're being really, really simplistic about this, I'm not a boy, I'm not a girl. Doing a two different backgrounds thing, I'm going to cut between them, I feel very fancy. There's going to be some preamble because I just want to talk things through a bit, and then we're going to get to the main event. So who are NBs and what are we up to? Well, you know, mostly normal stuff. Playing D&D, but now online because of the coronavirus. Being chased through the woods by a terrifying monster. Having a movie night in. Having a brewski with the lads. Learning to skateboard. Holding hands with someone and thinking, oh no, my hand is too sweaty and warm, and they know. No wait, no, it's not too warm, it's too cold, it's cold and sweaty, and that's clammy, and clammy's the worst possible thing, oh god, oh fuck! Plotting and making schemes. I feel more masculine sometimes, and more feminine sometimes, and sometimes big both, and it doesn't really feel like man or woman are an appropriate label to me all the time. And I know that presenting at my most feminine, some people are still just gonna read me as an extravagant queer, and well, that's fine. I mean, it's not my fault that most people are basically gender illiterate because they think they're these two alien species called man and woman, even though that's not most people's experience. How do I know? Well, I have those dark days where I'm doubting myself just like everybody else. Is this real? Am I queer enough to qualify? And firstly, that's so obviously just a voice of self-doubt. That's ridiculous. There is no queer enough. There's no trans paperwork. I'm aware there is a ton of paperwork, legality, name change, and so on involved in transition. I was just speaking metaphorically here. Right now? This is properly terrible. Hey guys, what are we up to? But secondly, increasingly, I just ask myself, if I'm not, am I a cis man? No, clearly not. The simple answer to me comes from Judith Butler's theory of gender performativity. Gender isn't necessarily something you are inherently, it's something you do. A lot of non-binary people are simply refusing to treat the gender binary like it's real and strict and absolute when it's patently obvious to a lot of people, cis and trans, that it isn't. If you're hearing me describe any of this and you're thinking, I experience gender like that and I don't identify like you do, that sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. My channel as a whole deals with issues of representation quite often, be it the slim representation that minoritized groups get, or the dishonest representation mental illness gets, or the frankly kind of weird representation that women get in most media. Did you know we live in a society that has like a bit of a problem with women? Anyway, last year I made a video called Seeing Yourself, which was both about my experiences of borderline personality disorder and the representation of BPD in the media. And the less obvious choice I was making by doing that video was to be a form of representation in a kind of media for people with BPD. A big part of the premise of this video can be explained in the tailing off sentence. When I made my video about BPD, I looked at examples of BPD in the media, and now that I'm making my video about being non-binary, Am I gonna do a whole video about Jeffrey Marsh and Eddie Izzard? Like, a whole video about Double Trouble? I could do a whole video about Double Trouble. This essay is about being seen and how important that is. I'm choosing to be visible because I've always said you should try to be the person you needed when you were younger. I didn't want to transition online. I wanted to know exactly who I was and just be able to say definitively. I was afraid that if I wasn't sure who I was yet, and I showed that in a video, I'd be crystallizing this version of myself that wasn't finished. But that raises a pretty serious problem, namely that I can either just talk about my gender experience and risk having to make an amendment later, or I can try and wait until I think I'll never change again and talk about it then. But I realized a lot of that fear was coming from a fear of accepting who I actually am. And that's not an okay thing to let make your decisions for you. To explain, let's take a little detour and talk about hair loss, because hi, yes, hello, I am going bald. I started going bald when I was 14, and I get people in my Twitter mentions when I try and talk about it who are like, I'm 30 and I'm starting to bald now and I'm ready to kill. But for the most part, I am fine with my hair, my hairline, and how it's going and how it is, even when I want to present more feminine. I really sincerely don't dislike my hair, and when I do, it's really clear to me that that insecurity comes from other people. I don't look at it and dislike it myself. I think about other people disliking it. And to be clear, not gross slug men in YouTube comments who try and make me feel bad about it. People who matter. My friends, my family, people I want to get on with, people I might want to date, those are the people I worry about disliking my hair. But I don't look at other people with thinning hair and ever think they look bad, really. It's clearly something that comes from a societal pressure of how different people are supposed to look. And to that effect, baldness is a perfect encapsulation of pretty much everything I feel about gender. If everyone who thinks that being bald is bad just didn't exist, I could know for sure for myself, and just for myself, how I feel about my hair. And I'd know whether I wanted to take hair loss treatment, for example. My point is, if nobody else existed, I'd just be able to have an iconic gender moment all day, every day. So I'm just taking some time to pretend nobody else exists. We're nearly at the main event now, I promise. Now, to start in the least optimistic place possible. I've talked before about the Berlin Holocaust Memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe. This gets better, I promise. I need to also talk about the memorial to the murdered gay people. It was set up specifically for gay men, but it's not like the Holocaust made that distinction. And I think it speaks to all LGBT people. And I hope by the end of this video you'll understand why. It's on a separate site near the memorial to the murdered Jews. It isn't like its more famous counterpart, it's a concrete box with a viewing window. The first time I saw it, I was terrified of looking inside. Looking in that box serves as honestly a pretty good allegory for what it is to discover you're queer. A friend of mine recently released a video coming out as bisexual. That video talks about heterotemporality, the idea of the way that normative groups in society experience time, as opposed to the way that non-normative groups experience it. In that case, straight folk versus gay folk. In this case, cis folks versus trans folks. A key feature of heterotemporality is the expectation to be able to predict the way your life is going to look based on a mold straight people fit. At some point you should meet someone, settle down, get married, have kids. At some point you should be doing a job you can expect to keep doing and progress through a career.
What was a career? Well, documents indicate that an eldritch race known as baby boomers...
No, we don't have time for this today. We've got to get on with the video. Queer people who face discrimination at every one of these points can't mark time in the same way, and as a disproportionately impoverished group, can't expect to meet the milestones of career progression, home ownership, and so on. This is a way that queer time fundamentally differs from heterotemporality. Straight people have an itinerary to stick to, but I'd like to talk about queer time being less linear than straight time. Queer temporality, the queer perception of time, whatever you want to call it, is likely to be so much less linear because there's so much more waiting involved. Transition or coming out or just coming to know who you are involves looking back at little tiny moments of your life from a long, long time ago and realizing that you were who you are now back then, just for an instant. This leads to a phenomenon known in the trans community as egg. When you're an egg, you're very obviously trans, and in hindsight you can see it really, really clearly, but then you have not figured it out. No, I'm definitely a girl. I just really like sports and baggy clothes and that androgynous nickname all my friends call me. No, I'm a boy. I just think that men should get to be beautiful. Well, I mean, I'm not saying all men. Me specifically. But I'm definitely a boy. I'm cis, of course I'm cis, but I'm really invested in trans topics, and I spend all my time advocating for trans rights, and all my friends are trans, and I'm constantly jealous of them, but I'm definitely cis. Nobody tells you you're an egg. You just look back later and realize, oh shit, that was an egg moment. As time goes on, hopefully you get to just be yourself more and more, and that means you experience life normally and straightforwardly. But in that other time, that time between when you're waiting for your life to start, you hold on to those little instants like precious jewels. You hoard them, you keep them in a safe chest, and when you go back to them to experience them, you experience all of them instantaneously. It is April 2007 and I am in primary school. The teacher has just announced a competition in the class, and the class is deciding how to split up. I'm filled with dread. For years this has gone the same way. They will decide to split up boys and girls. This time, I will ask if I can be on the girls' team. Nearly all my friends are girls. The class will shout this down, and the teacher will dismiss it without a second thought. And I won't ask again. It is 17th of December 2019, and I am with friends. I feel happy and safe and drunk. An NB I might be in love with has just read me a poem by a trans woman about choosing to be alive. It is beautiful. I think I've just realized for the first time what queer temporality might look like. I might be experiencing it now. I don't know when I started experiencing it. Tomorrow I will talk with a non-binary barista at Starbucks about their fantastic eyeshadow. They are sweet and wonderful, and they drop tea bags all over the floor because they try to carry too many at once, but are impressively calm about this, calmer than I would be. Underneath their name, on their name tag, it says they, them. It occurs to me they are seen by maybe 100 people here every day. It is December 20th, 2018, and I am seeing this non-binary barista for the first time. They have a beard and dark lipstick, and I am like a rabbit in the headlights of their beauty. I have never thought before that I, because of my beard, could look good with lipstick. It is 11th November 2019, and I am sitting in McDonald's right after filming my video Comedy and Masculinity, and I've just made up my mind that I'm going to make this video, and I've told Natalie, and she asks how I'm going to tell my mum, and I don't know, but I know I have to tell her before this video comes out. Natalie suggests if I'm scared I could write her a letter, and before I can consider whether I want this or not, I am crying. I don't know. I just don't know. It is June 2013 and I am reading Watchmen by Alan Moore for the first time, and I am loving it. The story of John Osterman, who is destroyed in an accident and then reassembles himself from nothing, will later inspire a bit I'm going to do for a video that is more of a poem than an essay. It strikes me that instead of evolving like a cocoon from which a butterfly hatches, transformation can be violent and sudden, and that sometimes to become something new, first you have to be completely destroyed. It is February 10th, 2018, and I have just seen the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe for the first time, and I am walking toward the memorial for the murdered LGBT people. I am terrified. It is September 2002, and we have moved to a new city, and with that I have moved to a new school. My teacher smells of dried tea and strong perfume and dehydration. Later, other kids will tell me this is old lady smell. She writes my name in cursive, where I'm still struggling to write it printed. In her squiggly handwriting, my name says, Enk. It is January 23rd, 2020, and I'm reading a book of poetry by a trans woman called Jennifer Espinoza. It's the same book of poetry my NB friend was reading me last December. Each poem is too beautiful to bear, and I have to take breaks. Jennifer Espinoza publishes poetry under the name Joshua Jennifer Espinoza, incorporating her birth name into her name as a reflection of how much of her art is about her transition. It is December 2016 and I am in Starbucks again. I am here every morning because my job as a programmer is well paying enough for me to get a coffee every day, which is a novelty. It is December 2016 and I hate my job. The office space is aggressively gendered. My father, who is epileptic, once described a minor seizure or absence attack to me as being like a big creature was filling every inch of the space. Like the people were existing in this borrowed space that the creature, the air, was just letting them be in. This is gender to me. The creature called gender presses against every surface and fills every nook and cranny. I cry in the bathroom at least once a day. It is December 2016 and I am in Starbucks and the barista calls out, Enk? And I know what's happened and I call out, Eric. And another Enk comes forward to claim his coffee. And it seems weird to me that this Enk has never heard of Enk before. feels like a strange secret to me now. It is 2018 and I don't want to look inside the memorial to the murdered LGBT people, and the best way I can explain why not is I don't want to die. I know how the world I live in treats L, G, B, and T people, especially T people more than anybody. I don't want to die. I also don't want to be this other thing. I don't want to let go of the pretense of who I was and have it fly off me like a tarpaulin in a storm and uncover the half-constructed machine of me that still needs so much work. I don't want to die. I am terrified. It is November 2019, and I am about to look inside the memorial for the second time, and I still don't feel ready. I can see so clearly what I saw last time in my mind's eye. Inside the stone block, an androgynous figure sits, alone and imprisoned in the dark. I can see it even before I can see it. I'm wrong about this. In a moment I will look inside and realize that my memory of what I was afraid of seeing was clearer than what I actually saw. I will start crying before I realize what is even going on. It is October 28th, 2019, and I'm watching a YouTube video where someone I know is coming out as bisexual. This is where I first learned about the concept of heterotemporality. It's Christmas Day 2018, and I've sent my mum a script in which I talk about being bisexual. I only realized after sending it that I have never talked to her about this before. Someone at the dinner table mentions Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which I joke about copiously in my script. My mum shoots me a smirk, and I smile back, and a moment later I realize this means she has read my script. February 10th, 2018. I am dying. It is June 2017, and I have been fascinated with name changes for a long time. It seems like such an essential part of being trans. But also just exciting, right? An opportunity to reinvent yourself. Nonetheless, I've decided I don't want a new name. The way people who know me say my name feels so different to the way people who don't know me say it. I think of the other Enk in Starbucks who didn't know about Enk. I think Enk might be something I can choose to let people in on. It is April 21st, 2020, and I have decided I do want a new name. But I also want my current name. I want many names for my many ways of being. I want to be Eric, and I want to be Enk, and I want... who knows. It is December 14th, 2019, and I am pretty sure my mum doesn't look at my Twitter, where I talk about being an NB all the goddamn time. But then I mention a tweet I made, and she says she saw it. And I'm filled with too many emotions, too complex to describe in words. February 10th, 2018. I am becoming. It is August 4th, 2010. I am at a summer camp, and an NB is asking me to go out with them. They won't start to tell me they're an NB for at least 6 years. We will be together 9 years, 3 months, and 10 days before they tell me that we are growing apart. I will learn so much about them and myself and the world in general simply by knowing them. It is January 29th, 2020, and I'm wearing a skirt for the first time. It's exciting. It is scary. After telling my partner and my closest friends for months now that I wish I could shapeshift, I feel like I've suddenly learned how. My body is a different shape, a different style. I'm feminine. The days when I wake up and hate my body for not matching how I am on the inside don't have anything to frighten me with anymore. When I feel masculine, when I feel feminine, when I feel multitudes of both, I can just be me. Judith Butler put out an influential theory about how gender is performed, and although many trans people seem to dislike it, I like it. If my gender is performed, then it is art, like all human creation. And if I perform my gender for others to pick up on and interpret, then I can put on a whole-ass show. I can be complex and nuanced and dramatic. My gender can have themes. I love themes. It is April 17th, 2020, and we've been in quarantine lockdown for over a month. I really wanted to come out to my mum in person, but it's feeling more urgent all the time, especially as I've been wearing makeup and a skirt for about half the days of quarantine so far. Quarantine has its own weird effect on time, and I'm starting to wonder whether gay, straight, cis, or trans, about 90% of the population will probably understand what I'm talking about by the time this video comes out anyway. I need to figure out what this video is doing. It's a mess. But quarantine mode is anathema to writing. It is June 3rd, 2013, and my sister is moving out. Throughout our childhood, we were best friends, practically inseparable, thick as thieves. Our favourite film was The Matrix, which I won't find out until a year from now was actually made by 2 trans women. She's moving out, age 22, to live away from home for the first time. She told me she was a girl, and despite everything, I didn't believe her. I'm an asshole teenager who has never heard of being trans before. A year from now, I will hear about the Wachowski sisters who made The Matrix. In the next 5 years, I will see her once, and we will barely speak. It is 4.5 years later, and Natalie asks me if I ever think about getting back in touch with my sister. The truth is, I think about it every day. Quarantine time 2020. I'm considering getting really into crabs. My new video ideas notes reads, crabs? It is February 2nd, 2020. My friend is telling me about a woman who died in her hometown, who was buried as a man because her family didn't know she was a woman. My friend shows me a tattoo on her arm that she has of her own name, and explains that this is so that nobody can take her identity away from her. It occurs to me that my fascination with renaming may be a fascination with claiming your own identity. It is April 2020. Did you know the largest species of crab, the Japanese spider crab, can reach up to 12 feet long from claw to claw? It is 1:45 a.m. on April 21st, 2020, and I am in bed reading Joshua Jennifer Espinoza's poems. Yesterday, I told my mum about my gender. She already knew. It is February 10th, 2018, and I am looking inside the memorial. Behind the glass window, a video plays on a loop. It shows 2 men kissing. And behind them, scenes of homophobic persecution, figures in nooses, protests, hatefulness. But the couple stand defiant, totally carefree, and in love. Everything I was afraid of is in this box nonetheless. But there's something else in there. And it is beautiful.
3, 2, 1.
I recall all of the days I've cried. Even if heaven doesn't take us, we tried. But you know, I think if we stick together, maybe we'll become each other's guide. I know we'll make it out of this one alive. And we'll be alright. I know we both could have almost died. I know it's harder every day to provide, but it's gonna change, I can feel it coming. And when it's here, we'll be side by side.